So I've watched both Oppenheimer and Barbie in a day. Yep, I've done Barbenheimer this weekend the way we or should have, and I really want to talk about it. But believe it or not, both movies are pretty much impossible to talk about without spoilers. So if you really mind that and haven't watched the movie yet, come back after watching the movie. I will talk about Oppenheimer first since that's what I first watched. Now, this movie, despite being a big fan of Christopher Nolan, really worried me for quite some time now. As a Korean, I've seen the disgusting attempts of Japan trying to act as an innocent victim of the war while trying to erase a part of history, the things they have done across Asia. We witnessed this in Marvel a few years ago, and I was worried they were going to do the same in this movie that especially talks about atomic bomb and has that as a huge part of the plot. Since while Hiroshima and Nagasaki were unfortunate events for sure, I believe Japan has absolutely no right to act like they are the innocent victim of the war. But this movie thankfully didn't turn out like that. It focused more on Oppenheimer himself, his regret and guilt around his invention, and his fear of being the destroyer of worlds. So J. Robert Oppenheimer was an interesting man. While he felt guilty about the bomb, he has openly said that if he could go back in time, he would still make the bomb all over again to end the war. I think this movie captured this ironic thought of Oppenheimer really well. So in other words, the movie was as ironic as the man himself. And it just focused more on his life before and after the bomb, and I was pretty happy about that. Also, there were a few nude scenes, and I usually don't like nude scenes because most of the time it's just unnecessary and a waste of time. It's one of the reasons I usually don't like to watch anime. But this sex scene that overlapped with the scene where Oppenheimer was questioned about his affairs with his communist ex was just phenomenally done. I think it showed the vulnerability of Oppenheimer, the jealousy of Kitty, and the desperation of Jean all at the same time. And I also really want to mention how happy I am to see Robert Downey Jr. on the big screen again. With that being said, the last scene that showed Oppenheimer's envision of a nuclear war really hit hard. Though the movie was set in the past, it felt like a warning and a message about our future. Now with all that out of the way, let's talk about Barbie, which honestly took me more time to process than Oppenheimer. First of all, I was really excited for this movie. I mean, Ryan Gosling, literally one of my favorite actors of all time.
I drive.
There's something inside you. It's hard to explain.
Along with Margot Robbie and other phenomenally named actors and actresses. How could I possibly not be excited about it? But when I finally watched the movie, I was left with a big void of scattered thoughts all over my head. It seriously took me 3 hours to organize my thoughts about the movie. It really was harder to process this movie than Oppenheimer. So here's what I thought of the movie after all this time. Now, the movie was marketed as a feminist movie, and I've seen people fight about this movie online. But I think the movie was telling us exactly the opposite of what people are doing online right now. Now, hear me out. In the movie, Ken, who felt overshadowed by Barbie, learns about the patriarchy from the real world and flips Barbie Land upside down. Now, this showed us how easy Barbie Land is to be taken over, the same way how easy Kendom was to take back. This would just result in an endless cycle of taking over each other. And from that, I felt like the movie was trying to tell us how meaningless and unnecessary fights between different genders are. Because when you think about it, none of this would have happened if Barbies respected Kens and men respected women. I think this was indicated by showing the weird Barbie sexualized Ken, then showing the real world sexualized Barbie not long after. So this is what I got from the movie. Despite feminism being fairly a big part of the movie, I think what we should really focus on is respect. Ken was made for Barbie. He was made as a decoration for the Barbie doll, which is exactly why he feels like he's incomplete without Barbie. But when Ken said he was respected in the real world, despite literally saying this in a world now consumed by patriarchy, he didn't mention when he felt like he was above other women. Instead, he tells a story of how a woman asked him what time it was, indicating how he didn't feel like a nobody in the real world like he did in Barbie Land. Through Ken's attempt to take over Barbie Land, the people from Mattel and the doctor Ken met, who was a woman, showed us that respect doesn't come from authority. Now this, with Ellen and Mitch being overshadowed by Ken and Barbie, and the boring mom character as she says it herself in the movie, wanting an ordinary Barbie really showed us the respect ordinary people deserve in a world full of successful people. This leads us to the message of the movie: be whoever you want to be. You can be successful or ordinary according to what suits you the best, and by respecting who you are, you will be able to respect other people as they are, ordinary or not, because you don't have to be good enough to be respected. Thus, the message applies to both Ken, who thought he was nothing without Barbie, and Barbie, who was meant to be stereotypically perfect, now ready to see the beauty of being an ordinary, imperfect person in an imperfect world. So I would call this movie a message about the desire to be respected. And that's what I got from the movie. It took me 3 hours to figure it out, and if this is not what the movie was indicating, then I'm just fucking delusional. But hey, in case you needed to hear it, you are enough, and you deserve every respect from the world.
You are enough.
There's something inside you.
With that being said, I liked the movie overall and loved lots of scenes, but I think a few scenes could have been handled better. Because while complaining about the unfair treatment women face in the real world, President Barbie rejected the Supreme Court justice for Kens. Then they said Kens should work their way up like women in the real world. Now, that doesn't seem so fair, does it? I mean, does that mean women should work harder in the real world? That kind of contradicts the complaint they made about the word in the first place. Do you get what I'm saying here? So there are a few questionable choices the director made in the movie that might have blinded a few people from what the movie was actually trying to tell. So that I feel like could have been better, but with that being said, the sets and the props were just amazing and the movie is actually visually pleasing. I just wish it didn't rely on comedy too much despite being a comedy movie, because lots of scenes were actually taken very lightly, which kind of ruined the build-up. But overall, it was pretty nice. I would call it a beautifully crafted mess, if that makes sense. But one thing is for sure, this movie will be talked about for decades. I can guarantee you that. And that is it for the review of Barbenheimer. I know I talked about Barbie a lot more than Oppenheimer, but you know, Barbie was just a lot more to take in than Oppenheimer, which is pretty wise to think about. So tell me what you guys thought about it in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and share if you can, because guys, my last video did terrible. Help me out. And with that, I guess I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you.